Hello and welcome to In the Light, Growing Your Soul with me, Anna Isabel. And my guest today is Dr. Sharon Martin. Hello, Dr. Martin.
Hi, please call me Sharon, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's a joy. The title of your book is fantastic. Maximize Your Healing Power. And it's about using shamanic healing techniques. So it's it caught my eye and it's wonderful. So let's begin by talking about what is meant by shamanic healing.
So, what I've found as being a physician now for 25 years and working in a clinic, in a rural clinic, people are not empowered as they should be. And they often just relinquish their control to the practitioner, which can be a good thing, maybe. But they've also lost sight of their capacity for self-healing. And so when I was searching for a more holistic way for healing for my patients, I started studying shamanic energy medicine. And I studied in a tradition from the Andes. But since then, I've studied with other esoteric teachers and have come to see that things like ritual, the power of your belief and your intention, maximizing your intuition, aligning yourself with spirit and its many forms can be powerful forces for your healing. And it can exist independently and in conjunction with mainstream medicine. So I thought, why don't people do this more? So I wrote a book about how I see things from what I've learned. And it's really a step-by-step with the approach mostly for understanding your energy field and then figuring out how to maximize your ability for intuition, how to get your helpers from spirit, and then how to put those all together to change your destiny, to change the outcome. So that's really what the book's all about.
I love that you're talking about the importance of having really, it's about sovereignty over your body, which also means taking responsibility for yourself. And there are times when we do need to let go and let somebody else do their job. If you're going in for surgery to remove a tumor, that is the time to let go.
Right, right.
There's not a lot you can do.
But
when
Anna, it's also true, and I talk about this in one small area of the book. Yes, it's absolutely important for you to take control and responsibility, and too many people don't. But then there is a really strong energy of surrender. And the surrender that I find, the surrender to higher forces, to spirit, is critical, because there are times you don't have the answers in your human thinking, that you really have to get that wisdom, those words that come in from deep listening through, say, meditation or prayer or ritual. And then you have to surrender to your inner voice. And so many people don't do that. They get these little messages and they just plow on, I think often to their detriment.
Yes, indeed. And I think, in your book, you do have some wonderful stories that need to listen to that inner voice. Why is it necessary? What is it about the way that Western medicine is practiced in our time that has become so disempowering to individuals, do you think?
My bias, and that's sort of the sort of the energy the book takes is it relinquished any value of the mystical. And our indigenous healers were deeply immersed in spirit. Most cultures talk about their village priests or healers being dreamers, being able to intuit the future, being able to say an ayahuasca ceremony, get answers from spirit on how to heal the person. Those forces of the universe are present. They exist. They influence us. And to me, mainstream medicine has stayed so in the human realm that it has neglected all of that other input. And there is such power and beauty and places for we humans to ally ourselves with. And that mystical is critical to bring back, I believe.
It is vital. I agree with you. And I think it's the treating the body as though it's a machine.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then that is very disempowering to a person who is not a machine and who has feelings, and the feelings are not being taken into consideration. And what is coming across from a doctor feels like a diktat rather than conversation in which the
Right.
person is understood. And, there's been many studies that have shown that the therapeutic relationship is one of the key factors for healing.
And I would take it even farther. Yes, I absolutely agree. But I would take it even more finessed. Belief is a key factor in whether or not you heal. And so when you take the practitioner, especially mainstream medicine, the words they choose, the way they say them, whether or not they think you're going down a path of no recovery, those things, yes, but your own inner beliefs, as soon as you're willing to shift them, you open up to the magic of the universe, because it's not always a given. We are not all materialistic, and we are created moment to moment by the universal field, by our consciousness. And that's the part that mainstream medicine needs to wake up and get aligned with.
Completely. The fact of the matter is that when people see a doctor, they're already feeling extremely vulnerable and very often afraid. And it's what they say and the need now, it seems, due to catering for insurance needs and protection from liability, to tell the patient everything that could go wrong,
Right.
ignoring any notion of nocebo, which is extraordinary to me. So the patient goes in afraid and disheartened, and they're told, oh yeah, you have this and this condition. And they're immediately told what the worst case scenario will be.
Mm-hmm.
And they're told what the treatment is and what could go wrong with the treatment.
And then the cost of the treatment.
Yes, indeed. For many people, that certainly in the States, that will be the case, that they will be given the cost of treatment.
But mainstream medicine, the model of medicine, is about trying to improve the broken. It's not about taking you and helping you be even more than you were before. It's a whole different paradigm.
Yeah. So from my background as an analytical hypnotherapist, I recognize everything that we're talking about, because everything about my work is about that mind-body connection.
Yeah.
And taking that into a very spiritual realm, if you like, of healing, And in my experience also, I would say that the clients who heal most quickly are those who have a spiritual outlook on life, those that feel disconnected from their spirituality. It takes longer for them to achieve the healing that they seek. So that's a very, so this is very important. So
May I say that a different way? Because it is very important. I'm going to say exactly what you said, but in different words or different perspective. When you, as a client, do not see yourself as interdependent with the forces of the earth, of the galaxies, of the universe, you lose connection to a vast amount of power. And if you, and many cultures and religions teach this, I happen to believe it, that we are an eternal soul. When you don't see yourself as connected to this power, you don't get the benefits of that power. And so somebody who we call spiritual believes in a connection to something bigger than the human. And in that, you gain immense helpers. So yes, I completely agree with you.
it's a resource as well. You could see it as a resource that you could tap into. And if you don't believe it exists, you're missing a trick. I think.
A big one, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was there a sequence of events? Was it one event that brought you into this more holistic approach to healing?
Probably the straw for the camel's back was the story I tell at the beginning of the book. And do I have time? May I share that?
Yes, please do. I was hoping you would.
Okay. So let me tell the story. Let me set the stage. I had come to a rural area after my residency program. I'm an internal medicine physician. And I came to a rural area, a county of 14,000 people, extremely rural, no female physician ever in their history. And the older docs weren't eager to keep a female physician. And so I opened a clinic in the very heart of the underserved. And I remodeled a building. And I was working pretty hard because, as you can imagine, the bills were pretty high. So it's a Friday evening and we have literally had a heck of a week. And it's about 5 o'clock and I'm closing up, and the girls at the front come walking down the hall with a look on their face that I knew meant nothing good's about to happen, and tell me that there's a young man out front who needs help. And I could tell that they meant psychiatric help. Well, at that moment, there was nothing nice I could think. Oh, you're kidding me. Why doesn't he have his own doctor? Oh, you're kidding me. Friday night? What happens if he's suicidal? Then I'm going to have to stay here, call the state police, get him involuntarily committed, wait for them to come to take him to the hospital. I could be here till 8 o'clock. I don't want to be here till 8 o'clock. And I'm whining and grumbling and generally internally, but my face probably showed it. And I said, okay, I'll see him. And back comes this lovely young man. I mean, in retrospect, absolutely lovely, beaming with light, blonde, curly hair, big open gaze. He was a cherub. In the years when I looked back on it, he was a cherub. And I sat down with him and he started to tell me that he had dreams where he saw things happen to his grandmother's friends, to the neighbors, and they were all bad things. And he saw them and they kept him up all night because he kept seeing bad things happening. Well, then I'm in my medical mind. Is he hallucinating? If he's hallucinating, he's the age to become schizophrenic. Is he schizophrenic? Is this just anxiety with bad dreams? Is he have sleep apnea, so that's why he's triggering bad dreams? All these medical things. So I get his girlfriend back to the exam room and I say, is this true? Does he see things and predict things? She said, absolutely. She said when he was 3 years old, his grandmother, who was a Romani gypsy, told the family he had the sight. So I sat there and I thought, I was at a major, in my own mind, I was at a major crossroads. Do I label him anxiety, hallucinations, early schizophrenia? None of those felt accurate to me. Do I send him to the hospital to be admitted to the psych ward? For what? What medicine are they going to give him? They're going to sedate him, give him an antipsychotic, give him an antidepressant. Will this change his gifts? And I had enough of a spiritual awareness and knowledge of psychic phenomenon that I thought to myself, medicine is going to sedate this out of him, but he is not broken. He has extrasensory perception. He's gifted in that arena. And I stopped for a minute and I said, I cannot medicalize him. I cannot ruin this ball of light. At that moment, I wasn't calling him that. I was seeing a lovely young man. So I said to him, I said, you're not crazy. Those words were like I had handed him $1 million. His anxiety left him, a smile beamed across his face. He let out a sigh, like the burden was lifted. And I said, however, I said, you are unbelievably gifted, but you don't have control over when you let these thoughts in. And they're coming at you all the time. You're like a sponge. You're just picking up stuff from everywhere. You have to do the hard homework of deciding when you open to taking in the knowledge and when you protect yourself, like when you're asleep, to shutting it off. And I said, do you have anybody in your family who has gifts like this? He said, somebody, a cousin or an uncle. I said, you get them to start teaching you how to choose when this information comes to you. You ask to open to it. Just don't let yourself be bombarded. Well, he left there happy, beaming. And I sat, I mean, that encounter changed my life. I owe a deep, deep debt of gratitude to him. He changed my life because I started then really asking myself, what is healing? Healing is not always giving a diagnosis and a prescription. Healing can easily be being told there's nothing wrong with you. That began my search for studying alternative ways of healing. And then I read Alberto Violdo's book, Shaman, Healer, and Sage, and signed up for the training in Peruvian shamanism. And, the horse was out of the barn.
I love that story because there is such a temptation now to medicalize absolutely everything. Things
Yeah.
that are human, like, bereavement, people wanting to call that depression and wanting to medicalize it and medicate it. And it's a very sad direction that we are moving in. So when I read your story, when I read that particular story, it really struck a chord, and to how valuable an experience that would have been for that young man. You've referred to the energy body. Tell us about.
Well, one of the things that I loved in studying the Peruvian shamanism is that these ancient healers saw an energy body in the human. And it was described by others. Alex Gray paints it egg-shaped. It's our aura. It is literally our energy field around us. And they believed, and what I have subsequently come to believe, is that everything that happens in your life impacts your energy field. And when it impacts your energy field, it then transduces down to the physical. So those also can be what you believe, because your thoughts change the energy of your body. And so that all of those techniques that we learned for clearing the energy body, for enhancing the vitality and the life force, for removing foreign things, for setting up protection, all of those things were in the shamanic training that I did. And it's powerful stuff. What was interesting is Alberto taught us when he was younger and studying in the Andes, and he took this diagram that the shamans in the Andes showed him of light centers in the body, and he took it back to his university. I believe it was, he was in Sacramento, and showed somebody, and they said, oh, those are the Oriental medicine meridians and the chakra system. So here, you know, completely congruent across cultures.
Yes, it's it always, it seems magical to me, the way that there are these correlations, that it is cross-cultural. But of course it would be, because it could only be in the same way that our bodies are real, because they exist. As in, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you recognize a body because it is what it is, a body. And so
Right.
the energy field is exactly the same. Those who are attuned to be able to see it will see it in the same way, because it's part of a part of us, a real part of us. So
Now, let me tell another story, if I may, because it highlights how the energy body, what impacts the energy body impacts. I had a patient who happened to see a traumatic event that occurred to a child. And in looking, when they were present, looking around and seeing the family members and seeing one of them, the grandfather, actually smiling or smirking, not horrified, not sad, about the damage that had occurred to this little person. And my patient had horrible PTSD, flashbacks, anxiety. And I said, because I could feel it immediately, I said, you encountered evil. And they said, you know, you're right. I said, well, that grandfather put out evil energy. He was not upset about the child having died. He was not upset about the injury. He was smirking. And I said, but that impacted your field. And now you have all of these. You need to clear the influence of that. And here I was telling him something that you would do shamanically in my medical office. I said, you need to clear that. Here's what I would do. You know, sit in a sacred place, sit with a candle, consciously think about releasing the impact of that, burn it off in the candle. You need to clear the influence of that bad energy on your field. And they did. They actually listened and they did it, and they feel better. That's the impact. And we're all impacted by energies all the time, including the mainstream media, including our cell phones, including all the technology. We're impacted by that all the time.
we are, and it's interesting because you went straight in, and my next question was, how does it link to the physical body? How does the energy body link to the physical body? And you've gone straight into that. Um, I was thinking we only need to feel fear to know that that can make us have a physical impact immediately. We get funny feelings in our tummies. Our breathing changes. So we know that that's the case. And if we're thinking about emotion as energy,
Mhm.
then will be a link to the energy body, will it not?
Well, let's expand it, because it's not just fear. There are times when we consciously agree to link our energy body. We think we're madly in love. Maybe we are madly in love. And we link up with someone, and our energy bodies actually connect and share energy and share power. Carolyn Mace, who is a well-known medical intuitive, talks about each of us as being a battery. We usually can generate our own power, but we sometimes take it from others. And that can be an agreement, even a subconscious agreement. But then you learn in a not good scenario that you and this person, it's not a balanced sharing of your field, that you have entered this very close, connected, maybe codependent, and now you're feeling drained because you're always literally giving your energy to this other person. So the energy body, you can choose to share it, and you can choose, and family members do that all the time. Mothers and children do that all the time. And sometimes it goes overboard, like in codependency. And then you find you're actually drained. How many people do we know that are physically exhausted because of the burdens of the duties in their family dynamic? They're the ones who are always carrying the load. That's an energetic process that they're taking on all of that load. So it can be a good thing because it feels really good to share when you're madly in love. And you should watch to be sure you're in balance.
Yes, of course. And as you say, I was using fear as an example that people would recognize immediately. But
Yes.
all emotion is energy. And it's interesting that you're talking about it being like the bridge that connects two people's different energy fields. So that's a very useful thing to remember, is that our energy field will rub up against other people's. And sometimes that's going to lead to great things, other times not so good. So how can we learn about our own energy bodies and how to take care of them?
Mhm. So I give several places in the book where I teach how to sense your energy body. And one of the ways is in a quiet, reflective, and meditative state. If I were to tell you that we have from our higher chakra, our eighth chakra, a fountain of multicolored light coming down around us, like a multicolored mosquito netting, and you were to sit and be very inward and imagine yourself sensing it, if you're feeling the cloth, the gauze around you, and start to feel, where does that feel frayed? Where does that feel like a tear in it? When we do this, and when we did this in my training, even as beginners, we could start to feel things. And then we are told to repair, to just visualize yourself repairing it. And another thing to do is, and this is also in my book, an exercise I call running the colors. Because we are light energies, the visible spectrum is the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, I think. Visualizing each of those colors as vividly as you can and sense it expanding and extending into your energy field. And you do each of those colors and you are amplifying your field. And I think people will tell you when they do that, that they feel more enlivened, they feel more filled up, they feel repaired in a sense.
You talk about learning how to sense the energy body.
Mhm.
For a lot of people, that's going to sound easier than it actually is. So, can you give us an example of how people might be able to start learning how to sense that?
I think you can start, if we start in our day-to-day world, and we'll go to an example that I think most people will know. You're sitting in a place and people are sitting behind you. Do you remember when you can feel someone's looking at you? And you'll turn and you notice someone's looking at you. So there are times in your day-to-day life that you could ask yourself, what do you feel coming up on your periphery, to change what you would normally see, even driving the car, from a seeing or a touching, a sight or a touch, to what do I feel? You're feeling your energy body. If I am walking down the street and I'm feeling that I should step over a step, and then I realize now that I look and see there's a hole in front of me, those kinds, anything that you can bring back to the feeling state, your energy body is feeling it. Again, in that meditative state of sensing the multicolored tapestry. Another thing is, if you want to do it with a friend, you could sit in a chair across from the person sitting, and just one person be the sensor for a minute, and just go into a meditative state and have yourself sense the person from head to toe and speak out loud what you sense, what you see. You will say, you know, your left shoulder looks like it hurts. And you just say everything you see as you go through it. See. And then afterwards get feedback. Were you accurate? I think a person will be shocked at how accurate they are.
Well, that's really good to get the feedback, because the obvious question would be, how do I know that what I sense is real and not my imagination?
Mm-hmm. And I would say, I would add a little twist on that. Your imagination is still powerful because it is linking you to the mysteries of the universe. So you might think it's not real, but that's our material world paradigm that we're all told we should live in. So I could argue that with you, but yes, getting the feedback. And we share realities. For the most part, we all humans have a reality. A tree is a tree, grass is green. But in that, we could also share sensing of each other. And when we do, I think you'll find that we take in a lot of data from the unseen world. Another thing you could do, and you've got my imagination going here, is being outdoors in nature and being very quiet and observant, and then saying, if the tree gave you a message, what would it be? If that squirrel had something to say, what would it be? If the blue jay over there was talking to you, what would it be? And I think if you start to sense, well, you know, that squirrel looks really anxious and in a hurry, or, you know, you could share that with friends. Everybody see what message they get. The world talks to us. We just haven't validated it in our conscious mind.
I love that. The world talks to us. I think that's a wonderful reminder on which to end our conversation. Thank you so much, Sharon, for your time today.
Thank you. And I just want to tell your listeners, If you purchase my book, Maximize Your Healing Power, it's on Amazon .co/UK. It's on Inner Traditions, Barnes and Noble. If you take the order number and go to my website, which is drsharonmartin.com, drsharonmartin.com, you can enter that order number on the page that's about the book and get a lot of freebie downloads. So there's a lot of gifts there.
That's wonderful. Well, what I'll be doing, of course, is putting a link to the book and to your website in the description box. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Sharon.
Thank you, Anna. Very nice talking with you. Bye.
And thank you all for watching. Next time, we're going to be talking about being an empath. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.